I'm sure you've heard performance spark plug wire companies express how good their spark plug wires are because they have such a low resistance of ohms. Well, what exactly does that mean? And what's the best wire on the market? Well, we're going to take a look at 6 of them here and find out which one's the best. Let's go. Fuel, air, spark, compression, those are the things that you need to make power in an engine. If you're missing one of those components, well, you just don't make that much power. So today we're going to talk about spark plug wires because I think really it's a little bit of a misunderstood component to the ignition system, which to me is one of the most critical thing about carburetor tuning because quite honestly, probably 30%, 40% of the time, any problem that we have with carburetor tuning is cured on the ignition side of things. It's very neglected. So a spark plug wire's job is obviously very simple. It's designed to carry the power from the distributor cap or the coil to the spark plug into the combustion chamber to burn the fuel and air. The problem with that is there is a lot of choices in spark plug wires, and here's some really popular ones here, and I'm going to show you how much different they are in just a quick second. But here's where folks run into some really big questions or concerns or misunderstanding, and that is the rating of the ohms of resistance on each one of these wires. Now, all of these are suppression or suppressor type spark plug wires, so they don't interfere or not supposed to interfere with radio, EFI, other electronic signals that are occurring within wires, everything underneath the hood. And that's a big part of understanding how the system works is what functions cause different levels of resistance within a spark plug wire. So we'll talk about each one of these individually. I got a chart laid out here that we'll talk about, but we're going to actually measure what the resistance is on these fairly popular ones, plus a stock plug wire that I've got here, and see what the difference is in them and what they're actually reading and rated as. So typically on a stock spark plug wire, no matter the size of this is an 8 millimeter wire, they are going to have typically a higher number when it comes to resistance. I would say on average it's probably 3,500 to 5,000 or more per foot. Okay, so that's how we're going to measure, or how the ohms of resistance is measured in that resistance in feet. So we're going to take each one of these wires, cut them down to 1 foot sections and see if they're actually rated at that, and verify what the manufacturer is telling us, and understand a little bit about how spark moves through a wire. So on the performance type wires, a lower number is generally supposed to mean that it's going to carry more or not bleed off as much power going through the wire down to the spark plug. So low resistance is generally looked on as very favorable in a performance application. Higher resistance is just generally viewed as more of a stock type spark plug wire. Obviously a very big place for those in the marketplace. I would say obviously a majority of the cars on the road are not performance type applications, and they're certainly not looking for the same type of things. Also, things to take into consideration that we're just not going to really talk about here today, because we could spend hours on the technology within a spark plug wire. If you've got a really high compression engine, you're running boost, nitrous, something that's changing the cylinder pressure within there, you're going to need to carry a little bit more power down there to make sure that you fire off that fuel and air charge that's in there as complete as possible. Today we're going to be testing and looking at just the conductor, not any of the other elements within it. They're wrapped with the wire to help suppress the RF or RFI noise. They've got other features within it. There's obviously insulation to keep the power from bleeding out of there. But really, we're just going to test what the conductivity is and how many ohms of resistance are seen within this 1 foot length of wire. So again, I've got 6 different or 5 different popular brands plus the stock one. So let's do that. Let's lay these out again, and then we'll talk about how we're going to do the test. Here are the wire sets we're going to be testing today. Excel, Fast, OmniSpark, which was the stock replacement brand at O'Reilly's, MSD Summit brand, and Taylor. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this little table here. We're going to write some results down on the other side here. So Excel, Fast, OmniSpark, MSD Summit, Taylor. This is the size or millimeter of wire that they described. We're going to take a look at that. So we'll measure it, make sure that they're exactly what they say they are. And this number here is the ohms of resistance that each one of these wires claims to be. And you'll see they're wildly different. There's not a single number on here that matches. Pretty interesting. Now, remember, we talked about the higher the number, it was more like a factory style spark plug wire. And that is fairly low, I think. I don't have a huge knowledge of factory type of spark plug wires, so leave a comment down below and tell me if that's average or low or whatever. But I feel like it's probably a little on the low side. 50 is a number you see a lot with manufacturers, that they have 50 ohms of resistance. And again, these are measured in a 1 foot length. That's why we cut them all down to a foot so we can get that length down. Other thing here, which is kind of interesting, I thought, was the Excel being rated so high. But when you're a cheaper wire set, which typically the Excel wires are, they're typically on the higher side. Now 500 is more on the I guess closer to the stock type level, but is certainly considered more of a performance type of wire, simply because when you look at those stock type wires, that number is much greater. Summit one was kind of interesting at 270. The Taylor at 350 was also kind of weird. The one that really stuck out, though, obviously, is the Fast at 25. Now, I will be very honest with you. I use almost all fast wires. I've covered this or talked about it quite a few times on the channel. I just fell in love with them. It was the former Crane spark plug wire from years ago. Great stuff. They always had a really great product, and they always had a really low ohm resistance in the wire. But I'll tell you, it's been quite a long time since I've measured one. So we're going to verify that that's accurate or not. The other thing in here is, even though these are the dimensions per foot, we may not get a perfectly accurate rating on the ohm meter. I know we're not going to. They're always wildly off for whatever reason. So we're going to measure it a couple of ways. I'll strip the ends off all of these, and then we'll measure it once, and then we'll put an actual end on it so we can have a better connection to it. So we'll try it both ways and kind of average it out and see which one's the best. So let's get started on that. I will go ahead and I will cut the tips off these, and then we'll start measuring the size, diameter, and then we'll start measuring ohms. I have to throw these away, or the dogs think it's chewing gum, and we'll start snacking on them. Let's go ahead and turn the calipers on. We'll convert this over to millimeters. And we'll just take a... Okay, so the Excel's a little light, 7.79. It's interesting. Fast. 8.54, that's right on the money. OmniSpark should be an 8 mil. 7.85. MSD 8.21. Interesting. Summit is also, my note says 8.5, but the wire says 8 millimeters, so 7.76. Okay. And the Taylor is supposed to be an 8 millimeter, 7.87. Well, that's kind of interesting on the results so far there. Again, it's not that it won't fit into your spark plug wire loom, because you have an 8.5 millimeter loom or holder, and the wire will slip out of there. I guess that's part of it. But it's a big part of understanding the quality of the wire and what it's actually going to carry through there. The Excel one was down a little bit. I guess the Summit brand one was probably the worst. 8.21. Everything else is, I mean, I guess that's pretty close, but anything that's off kind of throws up a little red flag here. But doesn't really surprise me that the knockoff type wires are going to be the worst. So interesting results. So let's go ahead now we've got the millimeters knocked out. Let's go ahead and start measuring ohm resistance, see what we can come up with. Ohm meter's on when it's not showing anything. It'll show 1 there. And we can always check it, just make sure we're in good shape. Wires aren't jacked up or anything to cause a weird reading on there, so we know we're good there. Excel, so we're at 500, so we're going to need to be up here at 2K. Let's go ahead and I'm not getting anything. That's interesting. We've got good connection. Only one thing to lead me to believe. Let's switch to 20K and see what happens. Holy crap. Okay, so wow. Okay, so that's like 4,400. Not what I expected out of the Excel. I mean, I understand it's the, one of the inexpensive brands, but that's not good at all. That doesn't make me very happy. Okay, so next up is fast. And let's dial this down to 200 because what we should be is somewhere around 25 ohms for resistance in that foot. 2502. I'm going to call it right on at 25. We are bang on there. Okay, let's see here. We are at our OmniSpark at 3250, so let's go back up to 20K. Ooh. Let's call that 4550. Wow. Okay. Okay, MSD. MSD, we should be at the 50. Let's dial this back down to 200. Yeah, bang on where it's supposed to be, 47. I'd call that pretty good. We'll call it 48 to be exact. Let's take a look at the summit here. Should be 270. So we're on the 2K. $290. That's not bad. Okay, let's take last but not least Mr. Taylor in Grandview, Missouri. 350. Huh. That's way better than 350. We'll call her 290. 290. Okay. All right. Now that we've got that done, I'm going to terminate all those ends, and we will start over and just measure that again. Let's try this now with the ends on. Should be a little easier here. Oop, I forgot our Excel wire was so awful. So bumped it up a little bit. So let's call that 4650 for giggles. Go fast, back down to 200. That's weird. Our ohms dropped. Let's call it 19. Okay, that's a little weird. Okay. OmniSpark. We have to go back up to 20 grand on this one. Let's call it 4,900. Okay. MSD, we're back down to 200. $47. Mr. Summit. 2K, I forgot. 29, 294. Yeah, we'll call it 294. Okay. And last but not least, Taylor. Oop. I gotta stay up there for Mr. Taylor. Let's take a look at the results here and see where we're at. The Excel one's a little concerning to me now. Off camera, I cut another piece of wire and did the exact same measurement on it to see if it was maybe I just have a weird piece of wire. I even cut one down less than 12 inches. It significantly should help it out, and still got roughly those same. So that Excel one for me is, at 500, it's kind of, at the high end of a performance wire, meaning ohms of resistance, and one that I wouldn't call exactly a performance type of wire. But literally, that Excel one to me is a big time failure. Fast here, everything kind of really lines up exactly the way I thought it should, given that, like I said, I've used these for quite a long time. Spot on. A little weird that it dropped when putting the connectors on, but maybe I just had a better connection to it. Who knows? So those are very, very good. The Omni Spark was really just to kind of show you what the high end of that looked like for a stock type wire. We're not going to talk about that. MSD, a little light on the millimeter size, but as far as the ohms of resistance are, that's bang on. I'd call that a win. Summit, again, a little light on the millimeter size. That's kind of concerning, and it's a little over, but it's consistently over. So I don't know. That one's kind of a push for me. I don't know how excited I would be. Taylor one kind of surprised me a little bit. Again, a little bit light on the millimeter size, which I don't really like that much, but it was bang on and very consistent with that wire as far as its ohms per foot. So I would be happy with any of those. So, like I said, I'm a little bit of a fast homer because, like I say, that's what I've tried to use exclusively. Most of the time, what folks bring me is MSD. If I select it myself, I'll usually choose fast. But one that I have kind of ignored here recently is the Taylor one, and I would be very happy to use any of those three. So really the fast one is number one on my list, and it should be here as well too. Everything was just so very close on that. The MSD one, again, a little light on the millimeter size, so I would probably, because it was so close, I would call that 2, and then because the Taylor wire here, being off there, I would call that a 2 as well. I would rate them exactly the same. If you wanted to rate them 1, 2, 3, then I would go fast, Taylor, MSD on the worst side of it. So little interesting, but again, you don't know until you actually pick up a tool and actually measure it to see what you're getting. And in that case, again, I'm not knocking the offshore type stuff. Even though the Summit one says it's made in the USA, I still don't like all that knockoff product that they do of all these other manufacturers out there. But certainly the Excel one surprised me. I did not know it was going to be that bad. If I get my hands on some other Excel wires, I'll try to see if maybe this was just a bad set, and that's just what I got. If you've got any questions on this one, don't hesitate. Please leave them down below. If you're an electrician and you want to explain ohms a little bit more and how that works, you'd probably educate me a little bit on that as well too. I'm not an electrician by any stretch of the imagination, but I can read the gauge and I can read a set of calipers, and certainly that gave us the results that I was looking for. It was the results that they delivered. So, I guess, if I was to take anything out of this, stick with the common brands, maybe avoid some of these Ones that are a little questionable, and certainly, it's not a stock application. So I'm not going to pick on the OmniSpark folks. It's even though it's wildly off of what they advertised, it's a stock spark plug wire. You're going to get what you get. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that one. Leave your comments below, and yeah, I guess we'll catch you guys on the next one. We'll see you.